Hey guys, we're reading more Lyre, more test recording Lyre. I hate nightmares, especially the realistic ones. They're even scarier when they make sense. What was the nightmare? I don't remember, guys. It's been like a month since I played Lyre. It's much different when they consist of preposterous scenarios that can never even happen. Nightmares like the one I had are the ones that linger in my head for a while afterwards. I've really got to stop drinking before bed. I mutter this to myself, rubbing the sides of my head. I wrestle out of my bed and get to my feet. The ground is still a bit cold. I should probably ask if I could have a rug brought up. I walk across the room, my bare feet lightly patting against the cool ground, sending a fresh feeling throughout my body. The stress from that vivid nightmare is slowly fading away as I lightly move towards the window. Once I reach it, I press my head to the cold glass and look outside. There isn't much to see from this side of the castle, just some mountains in the sky. Sorry, I forgot we're in a castle. I wish I had a view of the town. I stare out the mountains and the way they cascade down the skies like great stone blankets covered in grass. The mountains are covered in grass? Usually, I guess they're like shorter mountains. They're not like tall, stony mountains. They're like shorter, hilly mountains. The trees are slowly losing their leaves as winter approaches. I hear the door open and some shuffling. Covered in grass? Usually mountains are covered in trees. Yeah, whatever. They're grassy mountains. I hear the door open and some shuffling. When I turn around, I see Leaf standing in the doorway, carrying a tray with food. I see some meat, cheese, bread, and a cream spread. It all looks really good, and I am a bit hungry. How long before we leave the room? Right? How long into Lyre visual novel before we leave the bedroom? Good morning, Lord Richter. Is that her name? I hope that you slept well. Good morning, Leaf, and no, not as well as one would hope. Richter, be humble. Sit down. Say you're fine. Right? Say you're fine, Richter. Say, oh yeah, I was fine, thank you. I'm sorry to hear that. Either way, you've slept more than enough. Some time being awake would do you some good. He lifts the tray in his hand, adjusting his grip on it. I thought that I would bring you your breakfast up, since I also wanted to give you some of this. He nudges the corner of the tray where a small bottle shakes around. You seem to be doing fine right now, but just in case you feel any pain, you can take a spoonful of this. I rub my side and don't really feel any discomfort. It does feel a bit sore, though. I feel like that's what discomfort is. I feel like that's what discomfort is, Richter. Thank you. It's no problem, really. He sets the tray down on the small table next to my bed. After filling with one of the bottles, he turns and looks in my direction. His gaze meets with my side, and he tilts his head in curiosity. You're healing very fast. I rub my side and shrug. Humans do that. You said it yourself. I did. I have the fortunate opportunity of knowing another human, but she's never been injured this badly. It's very interesting seeing your body recover so fast. Yeah, I forgot humans have a healing factor in this. Humans have a healing factor. I decide to change the subject, as I'm afraid you might politely ask to vivisect me. How often do you wear that? I say, limply raising my hand and pointing to his mask. I find that's very useful in my profession. I've never gotten sick after helping a patient. He holds his hands together down by his waist as he idly pats his clawed foot against the ground. But as a result of wearing the mask, he isn't being exposed, right? He's not being exposed to the illnesses. But simultaneously, he's not being exposed to the illnesses. And that means his body isn't developing immunity against those illnesses, right? So the moment he takes that mask off, he's going to be assaulted by every disease known to man. He holds his hands together down by his waist as he idly pats his clawed foot against the ground. Has anyone ever seen your face? He looks down with a sigh of defeat and then brings his gloved hands up behind his head. Of course people have seen my face. I see him start to fiddle with the little leather slatch on the back. Still, I had to wear this once for a procedure, and ever since I find a certain comfort in wearing it. He pulls the mask off, tossing it onto the bed. He then takes his hat off and looks up to me. Really? Really, day 2 of Lyre, we get to see the masked character be unmasked? Usually those are, like, reveals, like, saved for, like, the last 2/3 of the story. He takes off He takes his hat off and looks up to me. He's a burb. He looks like a raven, which I find ironic. However, he's about the size of a crow. I don't know what that means. I have no context for the difference between the size of crows and ravens in an anthropomorphic setting. His little beady green eyes stare up at me with a look of expectancy. Without the mask, it looks a lot more approachable. I know he's a lot older than me, but he's almost cute. I don't know how offensive that is, so I'll refrain from saying anything. Satisfied? He says in a curious, but slightly annoyed tone. Sorry. Yes, perfectly satisfied. I say this back to him with some satisfaction in my tone. He goes to put his mask back on while averting his gaze. I feel a lot better with you poking and prodding me now that I know what you look like. I don't like Richter. Thank you. I'm glad I can make you feel a bit more comfortable. He steps over to the door and opens it. If you have any questions, just ask me or anyone around the castle. Where's Lyle? Is that Wolf Guy? I think that's Wolf Guy. With it being the first thought that came to mind, I blurted out without any hesitation. He pauses for a moment, leaning his head out of the doorway to quickly stare down the hall. At this time of morning, he could be anywhere. Wonder if he's sleeping. One would hope he didn't stay out in the halls all night. But didn't he say he only sleeps like 4 hours or something? I try to think of any other questions I might have. I could really use a bath. I feel very unclean. Where's the bathing room? If you head left, it's at the very end of the hallway behind the wooden door painted white. Left wooden door, painted white, got it. Thank you. You're very welcome. Have a nice day. With that, he leaves through the doorway. I'm left alone again. I'm glad that I managed to get him to take off that mask. It's not like I'm someone riddled with a contagious disease. He just likes the mask. He just likes the mask, Richter. He's a little quirky, Richter. Still, if he finds comfort in it, then it's not my place to judge. Right, narc Richter. I walk over to the desk near the door and fidget with some of the things on it. There's a nice-looking quill, which I pick up and twirl around in my fingers. I set it back down and then walk over to my pile of belongings. I'll probably have someone come up and unpack my things later. Whatever. Whatever. I guess I can arrange them to my liking once they're at least out of their trunks, especially the clothes. I turn back to the tray of food sitting on my bed and carry it over to the desk. Sitting down in the chair, I scoot it forward. It's very comfortable and the desk is also at the perfect height. I go through the food pretty quick as I stare out the window at the clouds moving by. Before I know it, I'm done with my meal and drink the last drop of water. It only takes me a couple of minutes to gather myself and head out the door. Stepping onto the hallway, the walls are lined with stone pillars, and there's an occasional portrait, statue, or torch. As I near the end of the hall, it turns into some sort of balcony. The pillars are separated by arched windows. I get a nice view of the fjord from here. That's a river, right? Fjord? Wait, no, a fjord isn't a river. It's like a river, but it's not a river. What is a fjord? It's not an estuary, right? Why are there so many words for, like... Why are there so many words for aquatic phenomenon? The light from outside pours into the hall and lights up the bricks with a pink glow. A large door stands at the end of the hallway, the light shining off of it, making it contrast against the walls. I approach it and grab onto the handle. There's some resistance as I pull on the door as I'm forced to put my back into it. I pull harder and it finally budges. I swing the door open and I'm met with a wonderful smell. My eyes are instantly drawn to a large empty pool in the center of the room with a towering fountain in the center. Oh, it's a fountain. It's like... I think the fountain's like... Okay, it looks kind of crescent-shaped, like the moon. But I think it's like antler-shaped. I think it's antler-shaped fountains. The faucet is shaped like a weird spiraled antler and made of gold metal. Is it? I step into the room, the noise echoing off the halls. Even with the sound of my shoes hitting the ground, the room is peacefully quiet. To my right are 3 tall windows. Their glass is stained blue, green, and yellow. I can see, Richter. The green one is in the middle and slightly taller than the other 2. Oh, is it a metaphor? Are the windows a metaphor? The windows might be a metaphor, I'm not sure. Slightly taller than the other 2. Figures. I whispered to myself under my breath. Apparently Richter knows. Richter knows something I don't. It reverberates around the room regardless. I love the art. I love how, like, soft it is. I love how soft the art is, but also how, like... I like it. On my left, there's another large door, presumably leading to a place to change. There are some carved benches against the walls and some towels which have been folded and stacked next to a laundry chute. I set the clothes that I plan on changing into next to the towels, making sure the surface is dry. I turn and look at the pool, circling the edge, examining the fountain and trying to figure it out. After another scan of the room, I see some levers up against the wall in the corner. Walking up to them, I see that they have different colored handles, and I figure this is the contraption to get the water flowing. One of the handles says water, another says mineral water, one says salt. This place sucks. Each handle has a different type of bath water, and some have soaps labeled on them. I don't really know which to choose, so I decided to have some fun and just pull all the levers by just a bit. There's a rumbling in the walls that travels through the floors, and pipes snaking around under my feet. Water starts to funnel out of the prongs and the antlers, arcing through the air and pulling into the bowl in the center. Water is all different colors, probably due to being mixed with so many different kinds of soap and other bath products. It fills up the bowl in the center quickly, and soon a pillar of water starts to flow over the edge of the rim, splashing at the bottom of this pool. After a while, the water is filled up to an adequate height and starts to drain out of the side so that it doesn't overflow. It's a very enchanting sight, watching the light from the colored windows shine into the pale room and bounce off the multicolored pool. The beams of light bounce off the walls and up to the ceiling. I look up to see a large owl statue shelved into the wall above the door where I entered, its wings spread out into a large fan. I walk over to the bench next to the laundry chute and start to strip off my clothes. Once my dirty clothes are removed, I lay them in a pile on the bench and walk over to the large tub, my bare feet cold on the floor. The thick floral scent I was hit with when I first entered the bathing room has gotten stronger now that the tub is being churned with different oils and soaps. Large bubbles are forming on the surface, and they're all beautiful colors. I sit near the edge and slowly lower my foot past the bubbles and into the water. At first, the water feels cold, but as my nerves register the feeling, there's a warm sensation around my foot. I ease myself into the water as the warmth surrounds my body, as I lean against the wall of the pool with my back to the entrance. Watch your six, Richter. The water is thick with fragrance and feels amazing on my skin. I dunk my head under the water, closing my eyes as I quickly wet my hair. When I bring my head back out of the water, I feel refreshed and rejuvenated. Although Lyle said that I didn't smell, there was no denying that I felt very dirty. I carefully start to rub at my arms and legs, cleaning myself as best I can. The waters wash away my worries as my mind drifts away from all the strange things that have happened so far, along with the weird dream I had this morning. I finish cleaning everything as I lean back against the wall of the pool, closing my eyes to rest for a minute. As I sit there, I can feel the warm water soak into my skin, losing myself to the feeling of comfort. Thank you, Lyre. Very, very cool. I only have my eyes closed for what feels like a moment before I hear the door to my left open. ... Oh god. Lyle steps into the room, sliding through the half-open doorway. Who could have seen this coming, right? Who could have seen this coming? He stops in his tracks when he sees me, and time seems to freeze. He shakes his head as if trying to clear his mind, and then takes a few steps forward, averting his gaze. I didn't know anyone would be in here. I can no longer relish in the warmth of the water as I sit there, frozen with shock. My spine feels like it's made of ice, and any sudden movement might break it. I just stare at him with wide eyes. He stops in place, waiting for my response, but then continues to shuffle towards the bath. Walking to the edge of the pool that's across from me, he slowly starts to get in. I look like a fool, sitting in the water with my dumbstruck look on my face. I try to keep my eyes on his, but they fall to the place I knew they would. I can't help but glance at his bits as they rest between his legs in full view. They're quite large, and I quickly gather my thoughts and try to come up with something to say. Something to fill the silence threatening to kill me. I really needed a bath. I bring my arms in and sling into the water. Lyle steps into the water and leans back against the wall with his arms crossed over his chest. There's a small wave created from getting into the water, which rolls over to my end of the pool. His bushy tail floats on the surface behind him before getting too wet and slowly sinking under the water. I'd feel the same if I'd been through what you'd been through. Yes. The awkward silence fills the room once more as we both sit there. The red slightly fades from my face over time as I grow more and more comfortable with the situation. So, how was your morning? He's still quiet before giving a deep breath and answering. It was pleasant. I got plenty of sleep and went for a morning run. He pauses again. I do have a massive headache, though, but should leave as quickly as it arrived. What are you talking about? What do you mean, Lyle? What? You know what? Never mind. And he has an inexplicable headache, but he's certain that inexplicable headache will magically disappear without any intervention. How are you feeling? He starts to rub his arms and torso, cleaning his fur. I feel good, I suppose. I got a lot more sleep than I thought I would. After sleeping for so long, I was surprised to get any. That's good to hear. There's another pause in our conversation as Lyle takes this moment to begin wetting his fur. I can tell he's just pretending to busy himself to avoid the tense feelings floating around the room. He dunks his head underwater and comes up for a few seconds later, the fur around his neck completely drenched. He catches me staring at him as I casually avert my gaze. He continues, splashing around in the water, then speaks up. I know this is a public bath, but hope I'm not invading your privacy. I wouldn't want you to be uncomfortable. I can't blame him, but of course it was uncomfortable. Here I am enjoying a nice bath alone with my thoughts, and then steps in an exposed wolfman. In any other situation I wouldn't mind, but I was not prepared for this. I glance in his direction to see an embarrassed look on his face. Don't worry about it. Try to relax more and move my way around the bench. Okay. I watch him scrub the fur around his shoulders and neck, then splash water on himself. He then dunks his entire head underwater and begins to scrub away, his ears flopping around. I just sit there and stare at him for a bit. When I catch myself staring at him for too long, I avert my eyes to my reflection on the surface of the water. The silence goes on for some time, and we sit there for about 3 minutes. He continues to clean himself as I just sit there. Should I get up and leave? I don't know, maybe. Did you finish your bath? I finished bathing a while ago, and I'm pretty sure I could just go. Did I want to see me nude as I leave, though? Any other time, I wouldn't have an issue with this, but it's different now. I can't come up with a reason why. Sting might be alright, I suppose. I just hope he doesn't think I'm saying so I can get another look at him. Lyle's eyes are closed as he leans back against the edge of the pool. Right. They're gonna be here forever. They're going to be taking this infinite bath because neither of them wants to see each other naked again. So they're just going to be here eternally, forever. Lyle's eyes are closed as he leans back against the edge of the pool. Then he gives me an amused snort. Richter? Yes, Lyle. You added too much soap. He snickers at this. Sorry, I thought I would experiment with it. I didn't know exactly how to use the levers. It's fine. Other than the fact that my fur is going to be extremely poofy by the end of this. Next time, only pull one soap lever down a little bit. He lifts his paw from the water and pinches his finger and thumb together to emphasize how little I should use. Mixing the waters is fine. But the soap is tricky. Sure, thanks. There's more silence as you sit there listening to the soft noise of the water pooling from the fountain. You know, Oh wait, I forgot to mention something to you. I got a message from the king to let you know that supper will be at 7. That's great. Where's supper? Oh, it's in one of the royal dining rooms. I'll escort you there at 15 till. I feel like they've, like... at some point, like, they're probably going to give him, like, a tour of the castle, right? So he knows where everything is. I'll escort you there at 15 till. Oh, and don't be intimidated. He's a very kind man. Even if he looks a bit intimidating. He's dear, right? Yes, he is. That's all I really know about him. You don't know his name? No, I know his name, but back home in Erin, everyone refers to him as the Stag King. Not meaning any offense by it, of course. I feel like that might have been a rude thing to say about his king. Then again, no one ever says it with ill intent. Trust me, no offense was taken. Just don't say anything like that in front of him. What did he say? You don't know his name. No, I know his name. Everyone in Erin refers to him as the Stag King. Is that... What's offensive about that? I guess it just puts emphasis on the fact that he's like a deer, and maybe that's a weird thing. Maybe he's like the first deer king or something. I don't know. Trust me, no offense was taken. Just don't say anything like that in front of him. I don't even know how he would react. Huh. He shakes his head and chuckles. He'd probably just laugh it off. Or just not even acknowledge it. Just try not to overanalyze everything that he does. That's something I definitely have trouble with. Really, it's its son who you should watch your step around. The prince? Yeah, he can be a real pain. He's going to be the exact opposite of his father. Just make sure to get on his good side. Make a mental note not to piss off the prince. Okay, I think I can do that. After all, it's part of my job. Kissing up to the right people. He smirks at this and then leans back, staring at the ceiling. My eyes shift around the rooms, landing on him occasionally. I don't want to be rude, but my curiosity betrays me, and my eyes lock onto him. Back in Yaren, it was a rare sight to see a wolf man, even with the small population of other species. I've never been so close to one, especially in a situation like this. The way his fur gleams in the light, the way his ears twitch around at every little noise. His body was much larger than mine, and if I hadn't been introduced to a gentle personality, I think he was a bit intimidating. There I go again, getting carried away with my thoughts. I managed to compose myself and sit up straight. They're going to be in the bath forever. I watch the fountain flow down to create ripples on the water as I try to take my mind off certain things. After a while, the tense silence breaks as I hear Lyle disturb the water. Well, I've had enough water. I watch him turn around and lift himself from the pool. As I watch him rise, I'm flashed with the sight of his rear and quickly look away. He gets up and walks over to one of the benches where I see some clothes laid out. He takes a towel and starts to dry himself off. By then, his fur is really fluffy as he combs it down with his paws. While I'm watching his tail swish back and forth, he slowly turns and his gaze meets mine. I quickly look away and hope he didn't see me ogling him. I see him stand there frozen out of the corner of my eye, then he continues to address. Looking back up once I think it's safe, I see he's already put his underwear on and is now bending over, trying to stick his leg into a pair of trousers. I can't seem to take my eyes off him, and I'm pretty sure he notices, because as he's bent over with his head upside down between his legs, he's looking at me while shaking his tail. There's a smirk on his face, and I realize he's teasing me while pulling up his trousers. He knows I'm looking and is making fun of me for it. I look away with an embarrassed expression plastered on my stupid face as I decide to just keep my eyes trained on the water for now. I'm still looking down at the water when I hear him walk up to the edge, his feet splashing the small puddles that have formed on the ground. He stands there smiling down at me with a loose short shirt and trousers on. I suppose I'll see you back at your room? Yes. I'll see you in a bit. I try not to look at him as I say this, too embarrassed to look in his eyes. He looks around for a second, then gives me a nod. He walks behind me and I hear him go through the door. I sit there for a bit longer, waiting for the hot feeling on my cheeks to go away before getting out. Why was he teasing me like that? Was it because I was staring too much? It wasn't solely out of attraction. I'm just not used to seeing men like him. Was he trying to? I dismiss the thought from my mind and rise from the pool. Once I do, I slip a little bit when walking over to the levers. He slips and breaks his ankle. He is now bedridden for another week. I pull the lever at the end and the water shuts off entirely, the rest of the levers rising slightly in response. The water drains and then I hear the full pool filling up again. I peer over the edge and see it filling up with fresh water. I guess that's how they clean the pool of any soap left behind. I grab one of the towels from the bench and start to dry myself off. Once I'm done with that, I throw it down the chute and start putting on my clothes. It's not difficult, but it still hurts a bit due to the soreness of my wound. Once I push the last button into place, I walk over to the bench next to the door and put on my shoes. Then make my way out of the bathroom. When I step out, the sun is high up in the sky and a few birds fly around by the pillars. I look down at the ground and see Lyle's wet footprints making a trail down the hall. I shake my head and chuckle, walking over to the edge of the window. Looking out the window, I get a better view of the kingdom. I see some homes scattered about, and if I crane my head in the right direction, I can get a glimpse of the city and fjord. The cities are busy, and the homes are stacked up the hill, forming different reeds and alleys. Reeds? Forming different reeds and alleys. I gaze a bit longer, watching as everyone goes about their morning, then sigh. I can't shake off the thoughts running through my head right now, no matter how hard I try to clear my mind. It feels so wrong being infatuated with a man I just met. Not to mention the fact that he's my bodyguard. And a wolfman. I mean, it's not unheard of. shake my head, ashamed of myself. There's just something about him. Sure, he's good looking, but he's different from most people I've met. He seems to have a good head on his shoulders, and he has a kind heart, though he humbly tries to hide his best to hide it. Yeah, aren't they both like 20? Aren't they both like 20 years old in this? He's easy to connect with. Of course, this is just my first impression of him. There's one more thing that I really like about him, though. He seems genuine. The hours drag by slowly. I spend most of the afternoon after lunch going through scrolls, documents, and letters that were sent with me to deliver to the king and his council. Most of these go to the king, though, to be personally delivered to him. I don't think he has a very large council, which is probably why I'm here, to help wherever I can. That's why you're here? You're just here as like filler staff? Lyle came back to my room sometime after lunch, relieving the guard who took over while he was gone. He peeked in and asked if I needed anything while I was working. I invited him in because I knew that I still wanted to pry some information out of him about what's to come. Sure, I've been in this position for some time, but this is my first time outside my own kingdom, and they seem to do things differently around here. I also feel it might come across as crass if I were to avoid him after what happened in the bathroom. Also, I truly enjoy his company. He's sitting in the same chair as I sat in last night, toying around with a dagger. I pick up one of the letters from the small pile and place it on the stack designated for the king's eyes. That's a lot of letters. You delivered the king's mail? He says this in a snarky tone while resting the end of his finger on the tip of the dagger. I sigh, dropping my hand slowly and glancing out the window. Yes. Reasoning behind this was to ensure that all of these... I gazed back at him while gesturing to the letters. Got here, but after the rock side, some seem to have gone missing. The north winds have probably carried them all the way to the Golden Timber by now. The Golden Timber? What's the Golden Timber? Is there an Erd tree? Whatever. Is there a Yggdrasil? Does this setting have a Yggdrasil in it? My men gathered up as many... My men gathered up as many of them as they could, though. I raise an eyebrow as I hold up one of the scrolls, which has been smeared with dirt. I know. The trunk was practically smashed to pieces. The lid was bent a little, nothing more. I'm surprised the lid was still there. He stifles a giggle and grins at me. It brings me out of my sour, overworked mood for a fleeting moment. His toothy grin is truly contagious. I grab some of the letters, bunching them up together and stacking them on the desk. Putting away the other scrolls, I sit at my workspace for a minute, with my hands folded in my lap. I go back and forth from staring out the window to staring at Lyle. His bushy tail sticks out the back of his chair and sweeps the floor, slowing down over time. He sits there for a minute, tinkering with his blade before lowering his shoulders, letting out a breathy sigh. What? Huh? Why are you staring at me? Is this about earlier? It wasn't my intention to. I'm sorry about gracing you with my... What? No. I just wanted to talk about... I just wanted to talk more about... I gesture behind me out the door. What to expect? Oh. Sorry, I just thought that. He shivers, shaking his head a bit. I mean, like I said, you don't really need to prepare for much. It's just dinner. Have fun with it. I know, but I just want to make a good first impression. If I screw this up, I won't be taken seriously in my profession ever again. Your profession? He leans back in his seat and laughs. You won't be taken seriously at the dining table ever again. He says this with a hint of sarcasm. However, if it's anything like the dinner we had last night, I'm sure you'll do fine. He winks at me after he says this, which flustered me for a moment. Personally, I think you're over-exaggerating. Maybe I am. In any other place, this would be reasonable, but... Does he tend to take these things seriously? Thinks for a moment, his nose twitching. No, not really. I mean, he does. He just takes a more relaxed approach. It sounds like it's going to make my job a lot easier. I'll take your word for it. The rest of the day passes by without any trouble. I started to feel very tired at one point, or maybe I just needed to stretch my legs. Either way, I laid in bed to rest for a bit and almost fell asleep. Lyle came in and nudged me back into reality. He told me that we should leave soon, so I put on my suit. Suit? Okay. The soap from that bath did wonders to my hair, giving it a really nice shine. Feels really nice as well. Nicer than it's felt in a long time. Pick up the letters and scrolls off the desk and make my way to the door. Look down the hall and see Lyle with his arms resting on the sill of the window. He's watching the sun go down behind the mountains, and his figure is engulfed in warm light. His tail is swaying slowly behind him as his eyes are glazed with evening light. When they get closer, he turns his head and smiles. Look at the sunset, he commands. I stand next to him and look out the window. Oh, the music's so nice. The music's so pretty. The sun eclipses behind the mountains as its warm light cascades over the landscape. The grassy hills are bathed in a deep light as the wind creates waves across them. A soft wind blows through the hall and twists around the pillars. Isn't it gorgeous? Yes, it's very beautiful. You're probably not used to views like these. You'll find that Lyre is a very beautiful place. I'm sure I will. Back home, there aren't as many mountains, but the way the sun shimmers on the waters of the coast is always enchanting. The beaches are white as the moon, and the moon is crystal clear. I've never been that far west before. That explains so much. Richter's a West Coast boy. That explains so much. Never? Yes, I spent all my life on this side of the continent. It would be nice to go explore the rest of... Tigrin? I think I already know the answer, but I ask him anyway. Why don't you? He lowers his head with a bittersweet smile. Unless the kingdom sprouts legs and walks across the entirety of Tigrin, I can't. I've given my life and heart to the king and his kingdom. I'll be doing this for the rest of my life. He gestures out across the landscape. Sounds so sad. It's not all bad. I did go south once. Maybe duty will call me to go other places as well. Let's out a dreary sigh. Still, that was before I was a knight. I'm not sure I'll ever have opportunities like that ever again. We begin walking down the hall at a slow pace. I think you would like Erin. It's a beautiful place with the perfect climate, rolling hills, plenty of wonderful sights to see. I'm more interested in stranger places. Like the Shadow Gulch, or the Parched Labyrinth. I just want to go somewhere new. Somewhere different. Different from this. He gestures outside. After a while, it starts to feel like the mountains are closing in around you. It can get a bit claustrophobic. I nod in agreement, and we walk in silence a bit longer. Lyle is walking with his paws behind his back and his chin high. He keeps opening his mouth as if he's about to say something, only close to it. Finally, he speaks. Sorry about earlier. What? Snapping at you like that. It's my fault anyway. I could sense you were uncomfortable the whole time, but I thought I could make things less uncomfortable if I just played it casual. I also figured that since you were looking, I would tease you a bit as a joke. I'm usually the one in there during that time of day. This is about the bathroom. Yes? I reach over and place my hand on his back. It's fine. He grimaces and puts on a shy grin. You're right, I'm sorry. I just tend to overthink these things. The last thing I want to do is make it seem like I was being overly... I didn't know you were so shy about your body. You didn't have to pretend to be so open just for me. My jest gets to him, and as I watch his mouth curl like he's trying to stop a smile. I'm not, I just... He sighs and waves his paw dismissively. I let out a slight chuckle. Ha! What? You have a nice laugh. I can feel my face flush red. Please don't say that. We laugh together for a moment, then carry on the rest of our walk in silence. Delving far into the interior of the castle, we twist and turn through the halls. There is a magical blue fire. The torches lighting the hallway are lit with a glowing blue fire. As we make our way deeper and deeper into the castle, we pass framed paintings and noble-looking people. I see your badger dressed in colorful clothing with a large ruff around his neck. A little ways down, I see a portrait of a fox clad in white and purple. A portrait of a fox clad in a white and purple silk dress and a shawl. After a few more portraits, we come across a large pail of double doors. Double doors. Well, here we are. Are you ready? I swallow the lump in my throat and nod, straightening out my clothes. It's just dinner. Calm down. He just wants to meet you. Lyle walks up to one of the large doors and raps at it. For a moment, there's only the sound of the door knocker echoing down the empty halls. Then there's the sound of someone clearing their throat, and a voice calls out from the other side. Come in. Lyle glances my direction with a smile and opens the door. The door swings open, and a warmly lit dining room meets my eyes. There is a large wooden table in the center with 3 chairs. I look to my left and see the other chairs have been stacked up against the wall. Cabinets and chests line this wall underneath the curtained windows. Straight ahead of me is a large painting of a table full of food and butchered meals. Meats. It looks like a royal pantry, games strewn about and hanging from racks. A large chandelier hangs from the ceiling right above the table, illuminating the room with the soft glow from the candles. Despite all of this, the room does look fairly simple, albeit very comfortable. After taking everything in, I'm immediately drawn to the men in the room who stand to greet me. There, standing next to the chair at the end of the table, is a large deer. The king. The king. His antlers are tall and elegant, a crown with the crest of Tigran framing the base of each one. The shimmering green gem at the top of the crown matches his bright green eyes. He's clad in a large fur coat, made up of green and purple fabric. He's almost as tall as Lyle, taller if you count the antlers. Height aside, he has a very kingly body. Very kingly body. I look to the right side of the table and see another deer. This must be the crown prince. He's not nearly as tall as his father, almost coming up to my height. The antlers on his head are perfectly symmetrical prongs. He's wearing neat clothing of a similar color. Guys, I'm freaking out. They spelled collar, they spelled the American spelling of collar. I thought this novel was written by a non-American person, but they're using the American spelling of collar. Maybe this is American media. I don't know. He has a cape draped over his shoulder, pinned down with the crest of Tigran. I turn my gaze back to the king and lower myself to one knee, bowing my head. King Raynar, it is an honor to meet you. He has a tired look on his face, but there's a warmth to his voice when he replies. It's good to see that you've recovered from your injuries, Lord Richter. I'm so terribly sorry about what happened to you on your journey here. Yes, it was an unfortunate event. I'm very grateful for the welcoming hospitality that you and your staff have shown me. He gives me an understanding nod and gestures towards the prince. This is my son and heir, Prince Adrius. I like the names in this. The names are very fantasy, but without being, like, too weird. You know, some fantasy media just has, like, nonsensical names, like Alva Streichisch or something. I like how the names are conceivable. I give a bow in his direction, hoping that I'm showing the right amount of courtesy. It is a pleasure to meet you, Your Highness. He grimaces for a moment, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, then straightens up. Likewise, my lord. I'm glad to see you are well. There's a short moment of silence between us, which is broken by the king. I take it my captain has been helpful. He's always been a good lad. He gestures towards Lyle, who is standing in the doorway. Lyle shrugs his shoulders and smiles. Very helpful, yes. A great first impression. It's very good to hear. I knew that Captain Reed would do well with his task. Even though I'm looking in the king's direction, I can still hear Lyle's tail wagging furiously. Thank you so much, Lyle. Please, Lord Richter, take a seat. It takes a moment for my legs to muster up the courage to work again as I walk around the table, passing behind Adrius. Adrius? As I make my way to my seat, I hear the door close and realize that Lyle has quietly left. We take our seats as I set the box of scrolls and letters in my lap. I feel so out of place and awkward. There's another moment of silence before Raynar speaks up again. I hope that your accommodations are adequate. The royal apartments are a bit old, but we like to keep them cozy, especially as the cold winds draw near. He rests his hands on the table, leaning back in his chair. They're more than adequate, Your Majesty. He draws back with a small frown on his face. Oh, please, you can just refer to me as Raynar. I would like to dispense with the formalities when not in public. If it pleases you. Lyle wasn't kidding, this is the most casual king I've ever met. Half expecting him to kick his hooves up on the table. The queen's nonsense type, so I'm not used to this. What is that you have there? He nods towards the box in my lap, resting his chin upon his hands with a curious look on his face. Oh, yes. I pick up the small box and place it on the table close to Raynar. These are some important documents that were sent with me to deliver to you. Financial reports, some settlements, news about the other territories, and other letters of intelligence. I figured that I should give these to you while I had the audience. He motions with his hands for me to slide the box's way. I push the box in his direction and he examines the documents. Is this everything? I fold my hands together. This is all that we could salvage after the crash. Have a list of the missing documents, and I'll have copies delivered. I apologize that some of them are a bit too dirty or water damaged. He opens one of the letters and skims over it before placing it on top of the small pile in the box. Thank you for bringing these to me. I shall go through these later and share these documents with the rest of my court so that they can evaluate them. He pushes the box off to his right and places his hands on the table. There's a long silence before Adrius slightly slaps his hands on the table in resignation, blowing out an exasperated sigh. So that's it? I glance at a piece of paper and that's all you have to say? The mood of the room instantly changes and for a moment I'm too shocked to even sink into my chair. As I said, I will look into these documents later. Why not look at them now? I'm sure Lord Richter wouldn't mind. Would you? He looks in my direction, and I shake my head. Why is he so weird? Why is Adrius so weird? Adrius, he's giving Ash. He's giving Ash energy. He's giving Ash from Fantastic Mr. Fox energy. He looks in my direction, and I shake my head. Not at all. Raynar clicks his tongue and turns to me, drumming his fingers on the table. I would prefer to wait. I'd hoped to delay this meeting until Lord Kadaj arrived, but we have a kingdom to rule. Raynar has a stern look on his face as he stares his son down from across the table. Unless you've forgotten. Why is he so mean? What's his deal? What's Adrius's deal? Someone tell him to go to bed. He stayed up too late. Tell him to go to bed. He's grumpy. Raynar looks at me with a small eye roll. My son has a knack for theatrics. He doesn't get enough attention. He then turns back to Adrius. I have a kingdom to rule, and 2 other kingdoms to work with. If I see it as best to wait until both parties are here before discussing such matters, he pats the top of the box with his hand, then that is what I shall do. Who invited him? Who invited the prince? Adrius grits his teeth for a moment, then reluctantly concedes. Of course, father. I only have our kingdom's best interests at heart. Do as you wish. I just hope that Arianian doesn't expect things to be this relaxing all the time. Adrius says this with a passive-aggressive smile while nodding in my direction. I try not to show any sign of discomfort as I decide to just nod. Raynar leans back in his chair with a look of content on his face. Of course not. Since we are waiting on our ambassador from Dries, I assumed that we could instead use this time for introductions. He looks at me with a reassuring smirk. I'm still recovering from the random burst of tense energy, so I just make a noise of agreement. After a few moments, the door swings open, 2 servants holding them open on either side. 3 servers walk in, rolling carts of food placed on them. The wheels squeak as they make their way up to the table. They begin to move all of the food from the carts and place them in the center of the table. There's a large roasted turkey sitting in the center, surrounded by greens and potatoes. They smell delicious, and I can see the steam visibly come off of them. A large bowl with a salad is placed on the table, tossed and filled with many colorful vegetables. The lettuce is layered perfectly, and it's drizzled in oils and vinegar. Grapes of a rich purple color are placed on a plate near the center, and there are bowls of different dressings. There's also a plate with crisp bread rolls. The smell reminds me of the bakeries back home. Just looking at them, I can imagine the crackling sounds the crust would make when breaking it. It's making my mouth water just looking at all of it. Finally, a large pot of soup is set next to the table on a rolling cart. With this, the servers begin to make our plates. Would you like the soup or the salad tonight, my lord? I quickly scan the table again and give my answer. I'm fine with anything. It all looks great. I watch them take a little bit of everything and place it on my plate. One of the servers walks forward with a pitcher of wine and fills my cup. After a while, everyone seems to have been served their food. It's a lot, and I don't know if I'll be able to eat it all, but I just figure I'll eat as much as I can. It would be rude not to show my appreciation. Raynar's plate has a big steamed potato in a salad bowl, with a bushel of grapes on the side. Adrius opted for a single bowl of soup with a small roll of bread. Raynar quickly cuts into his potato while plucking a few grapes to chew on. Adrius barely makes any noise, drinking his soup with content eyes. I take a bit of the turkey and the flavor is shocking. It's wonderful. This turkey is nothing like anything I've ever eaten before. It might as well be a completely different bird. I take a few more bites before Raynar speaks up. So how are things in Erin? Erin? I haven't been to the Kingdom of Erin in about 10 years. I take a moment to finish chewing the piece of turkey in my mouth. I'm afraid you haven't missed out on much. Erin hasn't changed, and I don't think it will for a while. The climate is as favorable as ever, and our citizens continue to thrive. I fear that I'm rambling, but when I make eye contact, I see that he's giving me his full attention and seems interested in the topic. Meanwhile, the prince sits across his table from me, picking away at his soup with a look of disinterest on his face. I'm told that Erin has managed to supply both Dries and Lyre with an abundance of food. We are fortunate to have such fertile farming lands, and very glad to be able to support our neighboring kingdoms, especially with winter drawing near. Raynar takes a sip of wine and leans back in his chair. There's a pleased smile on his face. I agree with you on that matter. It's very important that we work together. Adrius lets out a slight cough, which doesn't seem to faze Raynar. What is his deal? Time to go to bed. Time to go to sleep. The people of Lyre know better than anyone how harsh winter can be. I'm sure that you do. He gives a slight smile and leans forward, taking a bite from his salad. And we have your kingdom to be thankful for this food. I nod in agreement, tipping my wine glass in his direction. We continue to eat while having conversations about our common interests. He seems to be very interested in me, which is new because I've never thought I was that interested. That interesting. I guess being in this castle all the time would make him want to live vicariously through others. That's a stretch, though, and I might be overanalyzing. Lyle said he said specifically not to overanalyze him. I tried to answer his questions to the best of my ability, but I don't feel like I have any good answers. The prince has been quiet for most of the time, interjecting with his thoughts occasionally. So where exactly did you come from? How did someone like you achieve nobility? He asked this with a look of disdain. What is his problem? Someone like me? I'm starting to dislike him more and more as the night goes on. Rightfully so. This guy is crazy. This guy is a menace. Maybe he's just blurring things out without meaning to be rude. I lower my glass after taking a long drink of wine and pause to swallow. Your Highness, I'm afraid that this is not a very interesting story. He doesn't look satisfied with that answer. Good. Lyle told me to get on his good side, but I don't think he has one. He seems to be bitter all around. I suppose. Though I wasn't asking for an interesting story. He traces his finger around the rim of his wine glass while resting his chin on his fist. I just worked hard and proved myself useful. Speaking of hard work, I have some important news for you, Lord Richter. I'm choosing to appoint you as the Royal Finance Advisor. That's what we're doing? We're an accountant? This is Lyre Visual Novel where you're an accountant? Okay. I'm choosing to appoint you as the Royal Finance Advisor, along with your other duties. Do you think that you will be up to this challenge? It's a temporary position, nothing more. Financial advisor. So I'll be looking after the kingdom's coin? At least it's something I have common knowledge on. I've always been good with numbers, and I was never terrible with spending money. At least I don't see myself ruining this kingdom financially. I fold my hands and try to respond calmly. I've experienced with this sort of work back home. It shouldn't prove to be a challenge at all. He looks overjoyed to hear this. Was he expecting me to say no? I'm not exactly going to say no to the king. That's excellent news. The winter solstice ball will be held a month from now, and we'll need to figure out the expenses. It should be quite exciting for you, considering you've never been to one. The winter solstice ball? Yes, here in Lyre is one of our most famous celebrations. We celebrate the solstice as a reminder of the death and rebirth of our sun. What are you talking about? We use this time to cherish our loved ones. I think I remember hearing about this from somewhere. Sounds like a nice tradition. What do you mean, the death and rebirth of their sun? Is it just like... Never mind. Similar to the one we have in Erin, but this one is at the end of the year. So what, you have a... Never mind. But ours is at the end of the year. Make sure that everything is in order. Very good. We have past records on hand that you can refer to. They should help make things easier. I'll have them sent to your apartment in the morning. Our meal goes further into the night, and soon everyone is finished eating. Raynar has completely cleaned his plate to the point where one would wonder if it was even used. I look down at my own plate, having a small amount of food left on it. I would finish it all, but I feel too full to eat anymore. I can feel a cold draft from the windows behind me as I hear crickets chirping outside. I believe that was an excellent meal. However, it's time for me to retire to my chambers. I'm afraid I've been awake since the 5th hour of this morning. The 5th hour of this morning. He woke up at 5 o'clock, okay. Raynar gets up from his seat and steps forward, holding out a large hand. I'm taken aback by this gesture, but reach forward. He takes my hand in both of his and shakes it up and down once with a firm grip. It was a pleasure to meet you, Lord Richter. I can tell getting to know you will be hard. So we'll have to do this again. Of course. I do hope that you enjoy your stay here, however long it may be. We're here for an indefinite amount of time. Thank you, Raynar. I gather myself and look toward the prince, who is standing across the table. Gathering myself, I'm not overly distraught leaving his presence. Still, I try my best to be polite and give a bow in his direction. It was an honor to meet you, Your Highness. He gives me a slight smile. However, I don't feel that it's authentic. That makes two of us. You're too kind. It was nice meeting you as well. One of the servers opens the door and Lyle walks into the room. Good night, Lord Richter. Good night. I give a bow in both of their directions and then make my way to the door. While he stands near the doorway as I make my way over, he gives me a wink with a soft smile. We walk through the doorway and I spot Raynar giving Adrius a despondent look before the door is closed. Lyle comes up to my side, smiling. I assume everything went well? He places his paw on my shoulder with a reassuring smile. Well, I wouldn't say it went bad. You're looking at the new financial advisor. That's good? I mean, I assume it's good. I'm about to respond when I spot a painting of Raynar and Adrius out the corner of my eye. Raynar is looking off into the distance with a sullen look on his face, while Adrius confidently glares forward. I'd say the artist captured them perfectly. Oh yeah, I forgot pictures. I forgot there aren't pictures. His piercing orange eyes look as if they're following me. I see it as a good opportunity, and I don't think it should be too hard. Okay, but how did dinner go? Dinner with the king? The food? Was it good? The food was great, but I don't really know how to feel about it. Raynar's certainly a nice person. I can imagine that he's a good king. He's got an understanding head on his shoulders. I agree, he is a great king. He has wisdom and kindness unparalleled with others. The prince, on the other hand. Lyle rolls his eyes at the mention of the prince, laughing as he does. He's not the most pleasant person to be around. And he surely doesn't treat me with any respect. This guy sucks. Adrius sucks. Adrius needs to be sent to boarding school. Really? We moved over to one of the windows. He rests his paw on the sill, and one of his ears twitches slightly. I can feel the cool night breeze blowing through my hair and on my face. I think he's called me by name once within the past few months. Then again, we don't talk much anymore. What does he call you other than your name? He sighs, tapping his paws on the bricks as he lists off each term. Wolf, dog, and hound, just to name a few. Well, that makes him ignorant. You're only one of those things. Yep, pure Lyrian wolfman right here. Lyrian? Lyrian? Lyrian. Lyrian. He bangs his fist on his chest, clattering the metal plates together. Lyle is an inbred. Lyle's inbred. I laugh as he chuckles to himself timidly. But I don't think he'll be a problem for you. Aside from being a little flustered from time to time. I'll steer clear of him either way. But I don't see that ending well. I have a feeling we will not be able to simply steer clear of him. But I don't see that ending well. We continue to walk with Lyle in front, leading me through the maze of corridors. I watch the tip of his tail brush from the door from under his cape. We descend a flight of stairs and our walk begins to slow. I'm glad that we can enjoy each other's company. He shoots me a sheepish smile. I only mean, it's nice that we're able to get along. Makes things a little easier. He fiddles with one of his gloves, pulling the forchets off of his fingers, then pulling the glove back down on his paw by the trank. I do not know what two of the words in those sentences are. Gets very lonely in this castle. It's hard to have friends when you're the captain of the Royal Guard. Things are nice, but barely have any time to meet new people or go places. He pauses, letting the words hang in the air. I'm sorry if this comes off as a bit odd, considering I met you only yesterday, but I'm looking forward to working with you, Richter. As strange as it is, it's nice to hear something like that, especially coming from him. We arrive at the door to my room, and he stands there waiting for me to say something. I feel the same way. I've only known you for 2 days, and I already feel more comfortable around you than anyone else back home. Really? Yeah. Back in Erin, people only want things from you, and if you don't have what they want, then they don't even give you the light of day. You're the first person who I feel actually wants to be my friend, and isn't just trying to use me. Hard cut. I open the door to my room and step inside. Good night, Lyle. He looks at me with a soft smile, his eyes reflecting the little light that there is in this darkness. I can hear his tail beating against his cape as it wags back and forth. Good night, Richter. He closes the door and I can hear his heavy footfalls as they make their way down the hall. I take off my jacket and walk over to my bed, falling onto the mattress. I feel exhausted after everything that happened today. Everything fades out around me as I drift into a deep sleep. Is at the end of the day. Betrayal never comes from your enemies, but from those closest to your heart. Lyre. And it always starts with trust. Trust in one but yourself. Guys never have friends, only acquaintances. Okay, that was day 5 of Lyre, apparently. That was chapter 2. That was chapter 2 of Lyre. Thank you.